Offensively, yeah, they came out and picked us up there. We gave up a 3 spot in the first, and we knew it wasn't going to be easy. We were going to have to play our game in order to put these guys away. Their our offense showed up and picked us up. So that's what teams do, that we're supposed to do that. They swung the sticks. They took advantage in the running game. We're able to steal some bases and get some free 90s and put us in good scoring positions, and guys were able to come up with some big hits. So all in all, top to bottom, pretty complete offensive game.
Talk about stolen bases. What do you think of key in the performance today?
I gave him the red light so he wouldn't break my record, but he ran anyway. I told him that's the only thing I'm good for, and that's the only last thing I have left at ASU baseball is my stolen base in one game record, and he just shattered that. So I have nothing left, officially nothing left. So no, I was very, very happy for him. He's just a dynamic player, and having his leg just about healthy again, to where he's able to do those things. It makes his game personally much more dynamic, but it also adds a lot of extra threats in our lineup. What you have to do to hold that kid on in the middle infield, pitchers worrying about him, it just opens up so many things that don't show up in a box score. So when he's able to do that, it just adds that speed dynamic to our lineup that can come from more than one or two places. It adds that throughout the lineup, which is big.
The offense is really rolling right now. What do you think's led to that, and how big is it that the offense can put up these big numbers and kind of take some pressure off the pitchers?
I mean, it's a team thing. The momentum's trying to feed off each other. Pitching's trying to feed off the offense and vice versa, and get our boys back in the dugout and have a fight at the bat rack to see who gets to go hit next. So when things are working like that, it becomes an extremely fun offense. This is kind of what we've been hoping for, in urging our guys that we know we're capable of doing this more frequently. I'm not suggesting we need to put up 17 runs a night, and it'd be nice if we did, but this is one of those things that we just need to continue to strive to do what we're capable of doing, and come with a disciplined approach night in and night out, and let the results happen. When we do that, we got a chance to be pretty good. So it's nice when you always have a good offense in your back pocket, that you're never out of a game.
Speaking of the good offense, when you talk about Matt King earlier in the game he draws a walk, but it's a 10-pitch at bat. How much does that boost the offense? And if you're an opposing pitcher, how much do you feel it's just kind of a frustrating at bat?
Well, I think when you look at how that inning started, and we give up 3, and then we come back and walk grounds out, and then Harry gets nicked by a pitch on his foot, I think, and then Matt King puts together a dagger of an at bat that it's just like, okay, we're here to play. We're not gonna sleepwalk through 5 innings again. I'm gonna put together a good, solid, professional at bat. Fouled off a handful of pitches, works a walk, and now we're back in business again. And that's how good offenses roll. They just continue to pass the torch from one guy to the next and have good at bats.
Defensive side of the ball, you were able to close out with 4 freshmen there, including the debut there for Jake Neely. How did you feel they put together the game after Wyatt came in and wasn't exactly himself those first 2 and a third?
The 4 freshmen threw the ball outstanding. Jake has been in a couple games before, but this was the most length he's had, and he's been eager to pitch. He's been there's a lot of things that he has to do to continue to refine and be ready for this, for his opportunities, and he did outstanding tonight. So that's a kid that it's a challenge when you're faced as a freshman with an older team, that you have to stay mentally sharp, and it's awful tough as a young kid that's always been the studs on their seniors in high school, and then they come here and they kind of get stuck in the cooler unless you're an immediate impact guy and fit into the roster immediately, and sometimes you got to wait your turn, and that's humbling. It's frustrating for a lot of these kids, but I've been trying to preach to them that you can control what you can control. Stay ready for your opportunities. You don't know when they're coming. And those four freshmen, they haven't, outside of Easton Barrett, who's been in there regularly, the other three hadn't pitched a whole lot. And the biggest thing that I took out of that is there was no walks between those guys. They came in and attacked the zone, trusted their stuff, worked ahead, and had good results. So to me, it's a credit to them staying mentally ready. And I've said it before. Some of these older guys are scuffling a bit. We need some of these young puppies to step up and fill in and get us important outs when we need them.
What did you make of Wyatt's outing? Because he did have some good stuff, striking out 6 over 2 1/3, but those 3-run shots really came back to bite him.
Yeah, from what I see, just he's fallen behind too many hitters. You get in hitters counts and become a little more predictable that way. And when you fall behind hitters, I don't care what level you run the risk of guys being able to sit on pitches, and they get in hitters counts. They can look for certain pitches and they don't miss them. So that's to me, that's what's happening. Is he's just falling behind too many guys. He has good enough stuff to be successful, but we gotta continue to work ahead. When he works ahead, he's outstanding. But when he works behind, he gets touched.
The way you guys are playing right now, 5 straight wins here at home. All the last 3 have been not 9-inning games, run rule wins. Does it feel a lot like how you guys finished the season last year? Just very strong, like a really put together ball club going into the postseason.
Well, I mean, we're confident right now. That's a big thing. I think these guys are starting to see the light as to what we're capable of doing, and why at times I've been frustrated throughout the year, because this is the offense that I anticipated us having, and sometimes it takes a minute to find your stride. I've said it before. This isn't a major league season where you got 162 games to figure it out and you go through stretches. This is a short 56-game season, and if you don't get it going for the first 30 games, it's like, oh, your offense sucks. And it's like, no, they don't. We got to get going. And we don't have the luxury of waiting 50 games before we start finding it. We got to get going. And, I'm sure you guys have sensed my frustration at times with these guys, because I know what they're capable of doing, and we got to push the right buttons to get them there. And, there's still a couple guys that we need to get going, and they will. I'm confident in it. So, end of the day, this is, I've said it all year, this is going to be a fun offense when we start rolling, and we're starting to show signs of that.
It also clinches 30-plus wins for you for the 3rd time in 4 years since you've been here. I know they had a really long streak a while ago. I think it was like 54 straight seasons with 30-plus. What does that streak say, even though you guys haven't exactly had the end of season success that you were hoping for? What does that say about you and the direction this program is headed?
For me, it's just continuing to try to breathe confidence into these guys and continue teaching them. My goals when I took this job were to teach these young men the game of baseball the best I know how, teach them how to be young men on and off the field. You look at their grade point average being close to a 3.5 last year. We're continuing to teach them right from wrong. Sometimes we're not always perfect, but continuing to learn from our mistakes. And when they leave here, they're positive influence on society, whether it's in baseball or something else. That's my goal, and I've always stood behind that. And if we do that well enough, then the wins will follow. So the direction of the program, there's people that judge it different ways. I judge it based on the success of our kids, and how they're improving, how they're going on and being successful in life after here, whether in baseball or something else. That being said, my personal opinion is that the program is going in the right direction. Other people out there maybe have different opinions, and that's okay. But I'm confident with what we're doing. I'm confident in not only our current guys, but the young men we're bringing in here are going to continue to represent this program in the right way. And like I said, we continue to do things the right way, the wins will take care of themselves, and we'll be in the positions we want to be in.
After Birdie's home run, I think it was, the dugout was a little ignoring him delayed, and he seemed kind of shocked. What was the story with that? At
Baseball, they're always messing with each other. So sign of a team that gets along and cares about each other. They're always, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. We had a kid swinging a heavier bat the other day because for some odd reason that I didn't know about, and now they're doing silent treatments and stuff in there. It's like, man, I don't want to know everything that goes on, but that's just a baseball clubhouse and locker room and dugout. They're having fun with each other, playing loose, relaxed, and they're playing backyard wiffle ball right now, which is a lot of fun.
Isaiah with another homer tonight, his third in a row, and I think his fourth in the last 3 games. At this point in the season, it's pretty much all career highs offensively for him. Can you kind of speak to his offensive breakout after this being his 3rd season and finally starting to see those power numbers, offensive numbers start to show?
Just another kid who's put time and dedication and work into it, and no other explanation than that, and understood that he had to get better, and there's a lot of things he needed to fix in order to continue to be consistent. There's another gear in Isaiah, and we all know that. And I think he's starting to take off and get to that point to where, we all aspired him to be as a freshman. And it hasn't been easy. He's been a challenge at times, and a wonderful kid. Love him like one of my own. But man, he can be a challenge at times to get through to him offensively on what he has to do and stay consistent with it. And just because you have one good at bat, take it over to the next and stay disciplined on your approach. I mean, there was hit a homer tonight, and then he had a runner on third with the infield in and chased some balls below the zone. I think was it Vu that infield in, he hit the chopper to second. Vu did a tremendous walking lead and was able to score with a drawn-in infield, but, Zay chased 2 breaking balls below the zone prior to that. I'm like, man, you just hit a homer because you got to pitch up in the zone. Stick with it. So those are the challenges that we face, not with just him, but throughout our lineup. And it's, I'd go to bat for that kid. I'll have his back any day of the week, and he's progressively getting better and better. But I still think his best baseball is in front of him.
Coach Landon put together another solid performance. Briggs as well with another nice night. I mean, how impressive have you been with the maturity and consistency that those guys have showed as just freshmen?
Landon, I've said it time and time again, he just continues to be well beyond his years from a maturity standpoint in the batter's box. Puts together great at bats. Not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. I think that's probably his biggest asset is he doesn't panic with 2 strikes. Every pitch that pitcher throws him is just more information for him, and good hitters gather that information and use it to their advantage. And the kid knows what he's doing in the batter's box. He's pretty special. Briggsy, on the other hand, he's a guy that has been here for a year and redshirted last year, continues to work. He's more of a grinder, when he's in the batter's box, and he's finding his way and doing a great job. He's battling through at bats. He's more one of those guys that just has to compete. His compete factor is off the charts. He's not overly tooled out offensively, but the kid just battles. I think if he could bite the baseball and get a hit, he'd do it. He just wants to get in and fight all the time, which you need those guys. You need those grinders in the at-bat, in the batting order at times. So he provides a nice spark in there with his energy and his mentality that we need. So, both those kids have done a great job.
Last season, the most the team even stole in a single game was 4. You still 6 tonight. How much of an advantage has it been to be able to utilize the run game like you guys have? I mean, the hit and runs have been pretty consistent. Walker's been another guy who's stolen on bases, and then of course Vu has been the stand in that area.
It's a dynamic we've been trying to get here for a couple years. In the past, we've been a team that just kind of sits back and waits for the 3-run homer and puts something together that way. I've always aspired to have a team that has a good mix of speed and power, because I think they complement each other. I think that the speed makes pitchers have to throw fastballs, otherwise they're going to give up free 90s. And when you're worried about throwing fastballs to power hitters, you throw more breaking balls, which allows us to steal bases. So for me, having 3 or 4 guys in the lineup that can run, and 9 guys in the lineup that can put the ball in the seats, they complement each other well. Just having that different ways of being able to beat somebody is nice to have. We're not always going to be able to put together a whole bunch of consecutive hits or long balls. We're going to have to be able to beat teams with base running and being smart on the bases. So it's a dynamic that we're starting to grasp and get better at.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.